Okay, it's the middle of May, and we're going to take a quick look at the orchard. It's pretty windy today, so I apologize if that interferes with the sound, but let's get going. So, pear trees, everything's looking really leafy, so if we just look at our overall picture, leaves are really popping out, the trees are changing shape a lot, and we've had some rain in the beginning and then lots of warm weather for the past few days, and now obviously, as you can tell in the background there, we are starting to get to some more clouds and stuff. Hopefully get some more rain, but for now it's just kind of cloudy and very windy. So it's been, like I said, very good for leafiness. And then also if we look at the pears, we can see here's a good cluster. There's 3 of them, and these 3 are all fertilized. And you can see there's a fatty one, almost as fat, and then a smaller one. So sometime soonish, I'll need to come in and start thinning them once we've established who the clear winner is. And usually what we do is thin to 1 fruit per cluster. So here's a cluster of 3, and usually we pick the biggest one. So we get rid of this one, and then this one. And right now it doesn't want to pop off that easy, so maybe I'll wait a little bit. Usually it's not too hard, and it's just easy just to snap them off. So here's another one, here's 3. Once again, there's a smaller one and then 2 bigger ones. And here's one that didn't get fertilized. So it's really good to just go through and do that to thin your fruit. It makes the fruit that you keep bigger and sweeter. So that's what we'll be doing at some point in time here. See, we've got some nasty see how they're rubbing into each other? We don't want that. Even though they're not touching now, obviously the wind will pick them up and throw them in there. So when we're pruning, that's why we want this type of stuff to that's what we want to watch for. And so here's our brand new growth this year. You can see it's totally green. This stuff that's here, it's kind of brownish, but it's very flexible too. And if this were later in the season, I would think that this might be new growth, but this fruit here definitely gives it away because it can't put any fruit out on a brand new growth for the year. So you can see here, this cluster, all this was 1 bud. And then basically there became a new a cluster here that became the new growth. See, this is going to be the new end of the branch. And then there's the flowers which became fruit, and then a bunch of leaves. And so this stuff right here probably grew last year. You can tell because it's so flexible and still kind of light brownish greenish, where the other stuff is woody. This is still flexible. And anyway, that's kind of what happens at the end of the growth, the end of the branch. That's how they do. You can see this one here. Once again, 1 chunk from years previous. There's a bud, and then there's this shoot that's going to be like, hey, I'm going to be the new end of the branch. There's always one that they're going to, or sometimes more than one, always trying to push out. And what we have to do when we're prune is to be conscious of that and try to make it go the way we want it to go, because we don't want it to keep going down. We want it to go up and get out of the way and be at a good height. And this is kind of thick here. This probably should definitely be thinned. I mean, this is a very weak structure. But anyway, as you can see, it's a long one that comes out, and there's a lot of growth here, and it's very heavy and not very, as you can see, not very strong. And so with winds and snow and that stuff, we want our tree to be able to withstand that, and the best way is to have it give it some good structure, some good engineering. So anyway, we might do a little summer pruning on this to kind of keep things going the way we want to go. Anyway, here is our cherry tree. Once again, we can still see all the cherries. They're looking fantastic, getting fatter as the days go by, and leaves are starting to come out. We can see here all the ones that made it, and then the ones that didn't, and see how they just fall off. Interesting that there's no leaves on this section. That's odd. Anyway, usually there's a cluster and there's leaves and the cherry fruit themselves, but we'll probably within 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have these cherries will be ripe and ready to go. And these ones are a variety that get really dark. So when they're red, they're still tart. But if you let them go, they get darker and almost blackish, and then they're really sweet to eat. So anyway, there's all of the fantastic cherries that we have going. And all right, so our apple tree, once again, only a few apples this year, literally few. So mostly we're just watching the growth and kind of controlling the, watching for pests and stuff. But not really gonna be a problem because most of the pests that we have with the apple tree actually just affects the fruit. And since there's only 3 apples this year, we don't have to worry about that too much. So we just need to kind of watch the growth and kind of try and go in and trim out some of the stuff and make it a little not so crowded and all that stuff. But it's looking good. Don't see any problems. And like I said, when most of the pests for the apple tree affect just the apple, and most stuff in general. Now, there is, I think, a nasty bugger for the peach that actually affects the tree itself, but haven't had to, thankfully, deal with that. So here's, speaking of our peach tree, move on to this guy. And it's looking good. Leaves are coming out, and you can see now really well our peaches coming in here, and I believe it's about the time to thin them. As you can see, there's a cluster of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the span of 2 inches there. Obviously, all these peaches cannot be allowed to develop because there would be too much stress on this thing, and actually all of them need to go away, as a matter of fact, except one, because it's just too much stuff. And that's kind of what we want right there, 1 peach. And usually we want get rid of those little guys too. For this, the general rule is kind of like a fist for this size of fruit. Cherries we don't have to thin at all. Apples and pears, since they're a pome fruit, they bud with those little clusters, and basically usually we thin to 1 per cluster. And then with the apricots and peaches, we usually will do just a it's just a guideline, but a fist type thing. So you want a fist in between and not too many, because that allows the fruit, once again, you have smaller fruit, fewer fruit, but then they become larger and sweeter too, because the tree can put all of its production into making larger, sweeter fruit rather than trying to put a ton out. So, and with peaches specifically, you need to thin or else they will break, because they set so much fruit that they will literally, if they're all come to bear, they will break. The branches, because they're not too much. What's interesting about this particular branch here is it looks very weird. There's a lot of nothing, and then these fruits out here, and same thing here. It's not like a normal thing where there's lots of leaf buds along. It's like something's going on here. I don't know what it is. The same thing for that little part over there. So I don't know what's going on, but I guess we'll find out. Something looks like it's been eaten on the leaves here. I don't know what that is, but never seen that before. These little spots, little brown spots here. The leaves kind of curling up too. I have to look into that and see what's going on there. That's not good. This also has that same stuff. Yeah. Anyway, most of the time we try to just leave things alone, and things most of the time self-correct. We don't have to worry about pests and stuff too much. Things usually will come into balance as long as you have a good, healthy environment. But we always do like to keep an eye on things, just to have a plan ready in case something bad happens. So with our pear, just once again, everything's good. It's growing, getting leafy. You can see all this. So this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that, all brand new growth this year, as in these past few months. We can see here's the clusters there. They're a lot more numerous, and you can see that they have some bigger ones too. Quite fat there. There's a big fatty there. Once again, those will be our pears, so we'll need to be thinning pretty soon before the tree puts a lot of energy into making it a nice fat pear. We want it to just focus all of its energy on one. And see, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pears. And if we didn't thin it, they would all try to grow in that little space. And when fruit grow together, they touch each other. And they can crowd each other out, literally physically, and also provide a place for insects to grow. And just the fact that instead of making 9, I want it to make 1, and I'd rather have it make 1 giant, sweet, juicy pear than 9 medium, not so juicy, not so sweet pears. And that's kind of how it works. The tree has a limited amount of energy, and it can either make 9 or it can make 1. So anyway, that's that. And now our fantastic apricot. It looks like we're going to have apricots this year. I still have not taken the time to go back and look and see in previous years when the final drop was. We do have a lot of apricots on the ground. And I don't know if that's an indication that they're going to fall off, because I don't recall. I need to review my timeline from previous years and see kind of what's going on. But we have lots of stuff. You can see we have an issue that we have going on here is this fungal stuff here, little spots. I can't remember. I think it's called corneum blight. I looked it up, or it was in the newsletter. But anyway, it's a fungal thing. It happens when temperatures are above a certain temperature, and then you get rain, like has been happening a lot lately. What might happen, as you can see in the background, anytime. The only way to prevent it is to apply a fungicide before the rain happens, and then let it dry. And you have to do that all the time. And I looked into it, but there's nothing you can do about this part. It's going to stay there. It'll just prevent further stuff. And so I looked into it, but honestly, it's probably not worth it, because as you can see how huge it is currently, it would be quite a pain to try and spray all of that stuff, which is once again why we don't want our trees to be like this. We want them to be like that and like that, and that's what we're going for. If it were the tree were this size, it'd be very easy to spray, provide some protection, do all this stuff. But when trees are 15, 20 feet limbs, wavy limbs, as you can see, it's difficult to spray. And obviously I couldn't even spray right now, even no matter how tree it would be very difficult to spray, even if the tree were this size, due to the wind. So it's kind of quite a pain to try and protect it from there. So, and this stuff is it's just on the skin. It's not on, it doesn't penetrate in there. And I peel these before we eat them anyway, so I'm not really going to be that concerned about them. They definitely don't look super attractive. You can see here that they look pretty gnarly, but that's okay. This is a very bad infection, but it's very, very prevalent. But we'll have to see if that's going to be, because like I said, there's nothing I can do about them now, only prevent future stuff from happening. So what we'll do is see what happens. This year we're just going to let it ride out, because it's only 1 year that we've had apricots actually come to maturity, and we didn't do anything to them. So we'll just follow that pattern from before, just let things pan out as they are, and then see if they survive, and then also see how bad the infections are. And if we do get a crop but they're really infected and it is causing a problem with the stuff, then we'll do something in subsequent years. But like I said, most of the time we don't even get a crop from this because it dies off, and so we definitely don't want to be wasting time coming out and applying all these things and then have all the fruit drop to the ground. That's kind of a real waste. I don't know how well this picks up. You can probably see it over there in the mulch a little better, but lots and lots of apricots dropping. And so anyway, that is that. So you can see tons of apricots hanging out a little over there. You can see those little dots that I've always been referring to. Now they're really well established. The tricky part is that I need to thin these pretty soon, sooner the better, and it's a lot of fruit, and that's the problem with fruit being so tall. You cannot get to it very easily, especially with a small tree like this, with really long, rangy branches, it's almost impossible to get to all that. So basically, I'm gonna have to try and figure out what to do about that. But anyway, that's a different story. So that's what we've got for now. This is the orchard for the middle of May, and we will see what happens next with the apricots. Everything else is just keep developing. Thanks for watching.